Yo, welcome back, everybody. G Podcast. I'm your host, Chairman Torres, and this segment will be extra special. I have my good friend Amanda Reyes on. She is a filmmaker and actress originally from Denton, Texas, currently living in Brooklyn, New York. In this segment, she shares her experiences growing up as a second-generation Chicana, her start in filmmaking and acting, moving to California and New York to pursue her dreams, how she uses her films to share stories about her personal experiences coming from an inmate family, and other social, realistic stories. And we get a little behind-the-scenes info on nailing her first big director's role on a TV pilot, having to stay true to herself as a woman and person of color in her films. We cover her most recent film, Rosa's Esperanza, which is her thesis film for her MFA in directing at Fairstein Graduate School of Cinema in Brooklyn, New York, which she will be graduating from in May of 2018. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I'm from Denton, Texas originally. I grew up in Louisville, kind of all over the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Now my family's in Garland, but I met Herman at UNT, and then we were both in the film program there. And then I graduated and got accepted into Brooklyn College's new Fairstein Graduate School of Cinema. And I've been there. This is my final semester. I'm fixing to graduate in May and figure out what I'm gonna do with the rest of my life, hopefully in the next few months.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah, Amanda, you're the first, I don't want to say the first, maybe the first second gen Chicana that I probably befriended in my life. I knew other
Really?
second generation, like, you know, Mexican American people.
Yeah.
But we weren't like in my neighborhood, it was mainly just first gen.
Yeah.
And undocumented people. Mm-hmm. So when I got into the college space, it was almost like I saw brown faces, I saw minorities, so I related just immediately. But with you, it was like, okay, she's second gen. And I don't know at what point I made that, you know, I realized that. Maybe you told me, I don't know. But it was like, it was cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And I bring that up just to be like, what has your experience been like growing up second gen? Or can you touch a little bit on that? Because I'm still curious. Obviously,
Yeah.
We've talked about a little bit of this in the past, but I'm still curious because obviously being first gen, my parents are from Mexico. So
Yeah.
your parents were Mexico.
Yes.
Yeah.
It, like, honestly, it's something that it's just been a struggle my entire life because just like, it's such a big part of my identity being, you know, I am Mexican American, but I didn't really know how to speak Spanish when I was younger. Like, I'm better now, but I didn't know anything. Like, I didn't know how to speak any word of Spanish, like maybe like certain words I picked up from my parents or my grandparents, but like, and I think they like knew they made a mistake not teaching me Spanish early. And so they put me in like ballet folklorico classes when I was a little bit older and like tried to like put me around people my age that spoke Spanish fluently, but it just made me feel more isolated because I couldn't communicate with them and they would all be speaking Spanish and I wouldn't understand what anyone's saying. And so I didn't like it. And so I didn't know where I belonged. And so when I started school in Louisville, and like the school was a predominantly white school, like all my friends were white, and it was just like, I don't know, it was like that world, like they didn't really see me as brown. They just like, I was just another kid. And so for some, like, I was just like, gonna be honest, like naturally more comfortable around like white people when I was younger because there wasn't that like, why don't you speak Spanish? You know, why, you know, you're brown, why don't you, you know this? And so, yeah, and so it was like, I always felt like a detachment from the Mexican community in Texas just because of that language barrier. And that's like a huge thing. And
it really is, but I also don't, I speak Spanish. It's not perfect, but I can hold a conversation. I speak Spanish, I'm bilingual. But I don't think not knowing Spanish makes you any less
Exactly.
brown, any less Latina, any less Chicana.
Right.
So I understand that, but there is a big stigma. Even my parents, other family members, really traditional Mexican people or Latino people, they don't. They see it as like, oh, if someone's not speaking Spanish, then they're not really Mexican, they're not really Latina. But I never saw it that way, and I think it's important not to. And there's different ways you can go at it to be like, this is why it's okay. And like one of them for me is just the idea that we as like brown people, as mestizos, as people who come from like the Mayan people, the Aztec people, those people, our ancestors didn't speak Spanish.
Right, they spoke an indigenous
in a language. So to me, I'm like, none of us speak that shit. So are we real? Are we really about it? And it's like, so no, like, it was given to us by Spaniards. By
colonization,
white people,
right.
So to me, it's still like, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, my English is better anyways. It never mattered to me.
Yeah.
So I was getting to that just to be like, what else? Do you think there was anything else that, any other barriers? Because I know I've heard some perspectives from second gen, third generation Chicanos about how they were discriminated against in the schools for speaking Spanish or, in general. So
that's my parents. That's my parents' story. Like,
interesting.
Yeah, like my mom, I remember she always tells me the story about when she was, I think she was in middle school. There was this Chicana girl who only spoke Spanish, and she would help translate what the teacher was saying to her. And one time the teacher went up to her and yelled at her, snapped at her, and like hit her wrist and said, "Don't speak Spanish in this school. Like, you're not allowed, that's not allowed. You only speak English in the school, don't help her." And so my mom was like, traumatized. And so I think that my parents got it in their head that our daughter's going to have a better chance at life if we teach her English, and that's her first language. And maybe she'll pick up Spanish later on, but it's important in this country that she only speaks English. And so I think that that is what got into their head. And so the discrimination I faced was more towards my parents, and they really tried to protect me from that. And my dad's whole thing was just being able to own property, because my grandfather was never able to afford own his own house. It was just straight up prejudice here in Texas. And he got his citizenship. He was a veteran. He fought in World War II, and he drove the tanks. And so he got his citizenship, but he still wasn't able to own his own home. And he could afford it, it's just the state wouldn't grant him that. And so my dad's biggest thing in life was to own his own house, and he did, and he was able to do that. Yeah, I know. And so that's a big accomplishment for him and for our family and for our name. But I really think that my parents just wanted to protect me from discrimination. And so they thought, bring her up in a predominantly white world, and she'll have more opportunities, and she'll have that's how we level the playing field, And so that's that's the discrimination I came across, was secondhand through my family,
cool. Yeah, and I love hearing about these, because being first gen, I know what, at least the people I grew up with my communities, how people can perceive oh, they're second gen or the third gen, or even the way I'm perceived by just my parents and my older family members who are from Mexico, they're immigrants, oh, they have it better off, and we do have some privileges. There are some privileges with it, but to understand both that, you have the privilege, but also the person who can maybe even be envious sometimes. I don't know if that's the right word, or to be even in a way prejudiced to other Latinos or whatever for, oh, you're not Latino enough because you don't speak Spanish. I think it's important to understand these things that not everyone does. But for me, I make it a goal to learn about people, know where they're from and their experiences, because the way I speak about being first generation Chicano and yada, 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 this is coming from a male, right? A heterosexual male. So it's different for a lot of other people. Maybe a Chicana can't do what or can do, didn't experience what I did because for whatever reason I had privileges that she didn't.
Right.
And vice versa, like there's stuff that women will go through that I'll never really ever be able to talk about or touch on because they're not my experiences. They're not part of my identity. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
So to me, it's always been important. Like I said at UNT, I was like, okay, I meet Amanda. We're working on the same shit.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, she's second gen. Like I wasn't super like, oh, let me see what this is about. But I was like interested, like, I knew some second gen people, but like we're working on films and working on films, you get into a relationship.
Totally.
If it's gonna be any good, it's like,
you form a family.
Yeah, it has to be a family.
Yeah,
and if not, it's not going to be good or there's going to be no potential for it to be.
Yeah.
So obviously we had to learn about, and this is a great segue into filmmaking. So we obviously met at UNT through the film program and we built a relationship, a DP director's relationship for all of our student films there for the most part. So with that said, how did you get started into film? Like, I want to know that. Like, what was your first...
Oh, it's such a long story.
Give us the 10, 20-minute version of how Amanda Reyes got into filmmaking.
Okay. So basically, I started out acting. And I started out, it started in high school. Like, I was just, doing plays and doing, stupid musicals and shit like that.
Fire musicals.
Yeah. High School Musicals, yeah. And I was in High School Musical. But, and so that's where it all began. And then I went to Quad C, Collin County Community College, and I was in the theater department there. And I'd made, all of the plays and all of the shows. And, I mean, that's a really good theater department, by the way. So it was really competitive, and I learned a lot there, just about my craft and about myself as an actor. And then I went to LA, and I got accepted into the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I started working out there as an actor, as a working actor. And that is probably when I realized I need to do more than just play these stereotypes and audition for the maid, audition for the drug dealer's girlfriend, audition for the gangbanger's girlfriend. All of these blatantly just shameful stereotypes that I was reading for audition after audition, it just started breaking me down. And I just realized that this is why Chicanas and women of color don't ever make it into mainstream, film. It's because the roles that were offered they're not worthy of audience's attention. They're not worthy of agents' attention, not worthy of corporate America attention. And so how can we be highlighted in, Hollywood film if the only roles offered to us are the maid, the drug dealer's girlfriend? And so I started writing. That's when I started writing. And I mainly just started writing rants, monologues about how fucked up it was and how I felt, what am I doing? Why am I spending so much money at this academy when in the real world, the only roles, they're not gonna offer me the lead in these plays. The lead in these plays are white. Inside this school, they embrace diversity, and they were no, not only, this isn't just a white cast, we want a diverse cast, but that's in the school where you're protected and where, they want to build you up and build your confidence up and build your craft up. But in the real world, it's not like that. They don't give a shit, Yeah. And so you go out there and you learned all of this and you have all this confidence, but all they care is if you can have a Colombian accent. Mm-hmm. That's all they care about. And so... Yeah, the opportunities to excel are slim. Yeah. You're in this box. It's so true. And so I was this, I'm not gonna get far. And that really kind of broke me down. And I was done with school there, and I was just working, and I was financially struggling and just not doing well. And I was kind of starving. And But that's a reality for a lot of women in film. That's a reality for a lot of, people of color in film, starting out, actors of color. And it was such a sacrifice, and my brain, my mind, my body just couldn't take it anymore. And so I like called my parents up and I was like, hey, I gotta like put my pride aside and I can't do this anymore. Like I'm not gonna be anything. Like I was like really worried about where I was going and really worried that I was going to end up homeless, that I was going to end up dead, that I was going to, I was like on the verge of becoming suicidal. I was suicidal because this was my passion. This was like what I wanted to do with my life. But there were no doors open. And I spent all this money at this academy and there was no one to help me. And I was like, if this is my passion, this is what I want to do with my life, and there's no open doors, then what's the point? What's the point of going on? What's the point of keeping on? And so I was like, I need to go home. I just need to go home, and I need to rethink my life, and I need to like start making stories. And so that's when I got into the business of storytelling. And that's when I was like, I'm gonna be a film major and see what that has to offer. And like in my naive brain, I was like, maybe I can make films and write films about me and my life and star in them and be like, I don't know, like...
No, that's sick.
Like a Chicana Woody Allen or something. That's a bad example. Like a Chicana... Who does that? Nobody does that, you see? Like only white men do that.
That's why it's so cool to just be like, yo, let me just go... If there's not an opportunity, I've learned, and I see it in you. You just have to make your own.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
You have to make, your own opportunities.
Yeah.
And thankfully nowadays we can get more of there's more availability for that. Like,
for sure.
Back in the day, how the fuck was I gonna have a podcast? Like you had to have a full studio and, like microphones and
That's
whatnot.
So true.
And for filmmaking, you still would want like the big toys to make it,
right.
At a certain level.
Yeah.
But you can shoot on a DSLR. Some people have shot films on their phone
Totally.
that went to Sundance.
Yeah.
So it's like we can
Tangerine.
do that. Yeah.
Love that film.
You can take your own, a hold of your own, life, your passions, and do something. Again, it's still gonna be hard as fuck.
Yeah.
But that's awesome,
Yeah.
Awesome.
So and for me, it's whenever I have my back against the wall. It's whenever I'm like, I don't have anything to lose, so I'm just gonna go for it. And that's where I was when I started at UNT. And I was so insecure when I started at UNT. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never held a camera before. I was in over my head, and I was seriously depressed. And then I finally became you have to take classes to become a major. And so I finally got through those bullshit classes.
Yeah,
I became...
who's listening? Y'all need to fix that.
Yeah, seriously, y'all lose so many students having to take those prerequisite classes.
I think in their heads though, they're like, that's what's cool. Only the survival of the fittest. What the fuck? This ain't Darwinism shit. What the fuck?
I know. And so I was really depressed my first year there. And then I finally became a major. I finally started making shit. And the first films I made were stupid. And I'm not sharing them with anyone. No one will ever know about them.
Isn't that everything we do in the beginning?
Totally.
You have to try and make a bunch of shitty stuff so that you can get decent.
For sure,
Right?
definitely. You just got to do it. You got to do it. You got to prove to yourself, okay, I made this shitty thing. Let me try and make another shitty thing that's maybe a little less shitty, and then you go for it. But yeah, when did we meet? I don't even remember.
So, I don't know exactly. I would say
it's Short Film Club.
I would say Short Film Club.
Yeah.
Juniper. There was a short
film. Oh my
film.
God, Juniper!
So yeah.
What the fuck?
So there's a short film
that.
called Juniper in which I was DPing. I was the cinematographer for that, and a couple of other friends that I actually we had probably met each other, but I worked with Zach Zuziklis. He directed it.
Zach.
So friends that I still have now that I met there. Jordan, she wrote it. Jordan. Wright. So. And then you were
and that's
lead
where
role.
I met. Yeah, that's where I met Christina, and that's where I met Ashley, and that's where I met all those people. Okay,
So
no,
you
it's
were
coming back to me.
Yeah. So you played Juniper in that film. You played the lead
did.
role. So
that was crazy.
Again, this is. And Hector and I talked about this in the last podcast. You just see a brown face. You just see an other, and you're immediately like, hey, what's your name?
Yeah, no, that's exactly why I connected with you, because I was like, the cinematographer's brown, yo.
And it's not, I think that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
You see someone who just looks similar to you, and you're like, all right, we're like the only brown people in this room probably. So, hey, like, yo. So,
what up?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. We met during Juniper.
Yeah.
Just talked, probably small talk in between
yeah.
stuff. And then I think the next semester we were in maybe like iFilm, I don't remember.
Oh, yeah. That's when we got into intermediate film.
Yeah, so intermediate
with
film,
Eugene, yeah.
and in that class you had to like partner up, I think. I don't remember.
Yeah. That class was insane. Like, looking back on that class, that was insane.
Yeah.
Like, there was like 30 of us or something.
Yeah.
There was like 20 films going on at once, and it was like a 48-hour film race.
Yeah.
Like, every weekend
Yeah.
we're making these short films, but it's also awesome.
Which is how you get good.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, it's
it
how
was
you
awesome.
build like experience and
Yeah.
actually start making decent stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So that's where we met. It was through Short Film Club and then intermediate film. And I think we just knew of each other at that point in intermediate film and iFilm. So we were just like, yo, fuck it, let's like make something. But I think I probably was like, yo, I'll DP some shit, because I was always just like, yo, I'm gonna get good at DPing.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's how we initially were like working, like working relationship.
Right.
And I want to also touch on the films we made, the films you wrote and you directed and I shot. Like, I couldn't have picked a better person to collaborate. I wanted to tell you that. Because not only were we just making shit, but there was purpose.
Yeah.
In my life, every single thing I do, I'm like, dude, I want purpose. Like, I need
seriously,
it.
you need it.
I don't
Yeah.
feel fulfilled. Like, again, it could suck. It could be shit. But I knew that we had the intent of doing something good.
Yeah, for sure.
Good as in, like, this is beyond just a film. Like, I wanted to reach out and touch people, and then my water bottle falls. And I'll worry about that later. But yeah, so this is a good segue into the stories and the themes that you tell. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of all of that, the social justice approach to these things.
Yeah.
How did you wanted to get into filmmaking, and you did, but how did you start crafting these stories?
Yeah, well, it's really important to me to always have a female protagonist. That's just something that I'll never have a male protagonist ever. And maybe if I do, it's definitely going to be a person of color. But it was just really important to me to always have a story that is from my perspective as a woman trying to make it in this industry. And so that kind of, I'm always writing about what I know. And there's a lot of argument in film among filmmakers about, writing what you know, making film about what you know, versus, kind of like going into another community that you don't really belong to and writing about that. And like, one filmmaker's argument might be, I'm going to go into this other community, learn about them, and give them, a voice, and be that, voice for them. But then it gets convoluted.
Yeah, you get into the space of exploitation.
Exactly.
And again, you could make something really good, so you can get away with it.
Right.
But if it's not that good, or if it's shit, like, you fucked up.
You fucked up, man. Seriously.
That's a huge responsibility. You're trying to speak for other people.
Yeah, and I'm so glad we just said that. Like, I'm so glad, because there's a lot of filmmakers in the program I'm in now that don't write what they know. They rather research and do a little bit of, learning about another community that they have, no reference to outside of that research, and writing about it. And sometimes it comes out good, but sometimes it comes out offensive. And they don't acknowledge that. They just see it as art. That's just, it's like, nah, like.
And that's been like the past, whatever, years of filmmaking being a white space and being predominantly white males telling any story and every story from their perspective, And again, they'll be like, I'll do research, I'll do this and that. And it's like, you better do you better do
years and years.
You better do 100 years of
not just observe, but participating. Like you got to live like them. Like you got to be among them. You got to like, and even then, there's this separation that you're missing. There's an authenticity that you're lacking, and so it's so important to have those stories told by those people. And so that is my main, that's my main thing as a writer, director, as a filmmaker, is to write what you know. And I live by that. That's my motto. And so, and if I run out of things to know, then I'm gonna go out and experience shit. I'm gonna go out and move. I'm gonna go to New York. I'm going to live. I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to force myself outside of my bubble, experience some more things so I can get more material to write about from my perspective, because it's so important to have a perspective told from a Chicana, from a woman of color, because there aren't any. And that was going back to LA, that's what I was lacking. All of these stories were being written by, white men, white people, and none of them were being told by a person of color. And so there's so many, kids out there that just want to make it and are just trying to get noticed, but there's no authentic platform for them. There's no authentic platform for them. And so that's my goal as a filmmaker. That's what I want to provide for them, is to provide those children, to provide those women a platform to express their perspective and to tell their stories. And so, fast forward to UNT,
that's what she was doing. Every script was it mattered. It pertained to shit that was going on right now, or something that's existed in American history with race, race relations and issues and shit. And I was just yo, that's tight. That's totally there's purpose in that. Something I'm passionate about. Let's do this.
Yeah.
This whole past 5 minutes should be the intro to film at UNT, at film school. That's
probably cursed too much, but yeah.
No, so, because, and students, anyone, people who are starting to tell stories or filmmaking or whatever, they need to be educated on this,
Totally.
I feel there's you have a responsibility as a filmmaker, as a whoever who's creating something. And this is important to know, because there are a ton of people who they'll take the approach of, let me just tell all these other stories. And it's just you really should, like you just said, tell the stories you know.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you don't know anything, go outside of your bubble and experience. And and it's not that you don't know anything, it's just that you're not looking hard enough. You're not digging deep enough, or you're afraid to talk about that, which you should, Yeah. And so, take a risk,
Yeah, this fucking podcast is German being vulnerable. In case you guys don't know, I think it's important to be vulnerable.
Totally.
Right?
No, for real.
That's how you experience shit.
I'm vulnerable as fuck right now. Yeah.
We're vulnerable as fuck right now. So, yes,
yeah.
I can watch something and tell when it's not authentic or if it's fake as fuck. And I'm I never want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, even I work commercially, mainly cinematography-wise here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but I'll get hit up for some films we have a budget for this film. We want you to DP. We want you to do whatever. And I'm always script. That should be the first thing. Oh yeah, send me the script. Not how much money you're gonna pay me. So you'll get a script and you'll read it and you'll be okay, if the white dude gave me that script and wrote it, and I read it and I'm fuck, your characters are all out of whack. All your minority characters.
Do you tell them this? You tell them this. Please tell me you tell them this.
German did not tell them 100% what am I about to say.
Yeah.
But I just be nah, this isn't.
Yeah, pass. No, that's smart.
It depends. There's certain bridges I'm not afraid to fucking burn.
Right.
But sometimes I'm I'm not about to I could, or I tell them as nice as possible. I'm just no, sorry, I'm not interested, and here's what I thought. Or I thought this was kind of good or good, but it depends if I have the time, if I don't want to invest that much. But it is important to tell people, the truth.
Yeah.
To be vulnerable and be yo, you need to know the fucking truth.
Yeah.
But all that just to be this for me is yo, let me just talk and be my true self, and invite people and have people, that want to become a guest and, just have a real conversation and share, real struggles and insecurities and be vulnerable.
This is you providing that platform for people like me. This is like what it's all about.
And in your filmmaking, you fucking do that like all the time. Like you do it. That's why I'm like so like if you hit me up for anything, I'll usually be like, oh yeah, let's go do that. Like it could be shit. Like you could be like, you could plateau and then just like.
Just hit you up.
Just start making shit, then still hit me up, and I'll be like, yeah, let's go work on that. Because at least there's purpose. At least there was good intention.
No, seriously.
But no, we're making good shit. So.
Okay, good.
So so that's really important too.
Yeah. And that's what my films were all about at UNC. What did we do? We did I'd Rather Die Than Go Back to Texas, which was about me having to leave LA. And come here. Yeah. And
you were writing your truths.
I was.
You were telling them.
I was.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah. And then after that, we did. Was that it? And then we did Nickel. Was that it?
No, we did Visitation Line.
Visitation
I love that
Line.
One. That was cool.
Oh my god,
Visitation
I love
Line
that
was just a chaotic moment of just like standing in line for what was it?
To visit your loved ones in prison.
Inmate, yeah.
And it was just like, it was my life for like 8 years. And I was like in the middle of it. And it was what I knew. And there was no films about it. And so the exercise was, and I love this exercise. I hope iFilm still does this exercise because it is amazing. And all those films were some of the strongest films, even over the thesis films, I thought, was just make a 60-second or a 90-second film and make it have a beginning, middle, and end. And that's when I cast Will Branch. I was like, you have to be like one of my main characters. That's when I cast Josefa. I was like, you have to be one of my main characters. And then I just just the grace of God, just like the
something.
Yeah, like something. It all worked out, and I got like extras and everything, and we got permission to shoot outside this building that looked like a prison at UNT. It was awesome.
Damn, UNT.
No, but for real.
It was good because like the entire film was literally the visitation line.
Yeah.
Like it was just a line of people going to see their loved ones.
Yeah.
And just a chaotic moment of just like.
It was a real moment though. Let me tell you about what really happened. This is what inspired the film. Was I was visiting my brother in prison, and it was cold as fuck outside. It was like 30 degrees, and you have to just wait outside in the line. They don't care if it's raining. They don't care. And when I say they, the correctional officers, like the prisons, they don't care about the inmate families. You're attached to a number. You're attached to an inmate number. You're not a person. And so you're waiting outside. And so this charity came by and from this church and started handing out like water bottles and a hot cocoa, and it was nice, but at the time it really confused me because I didn't feel like, I don't know, I was just really conflicted because I was like, I didn't think that we were charity, and it was making me feel like charity. And then I was like reminded that I'm a part of this community that is looked down upon in society. And that I was like, well, like we're not poor. Like we can afford hot cocoa, we can afford water bottles, and like we're standing outside to visit our loved one in prison, yeah, but like, I don't know. And there was like a sense of pride that washed over me. Like, I don't need your hot cocoa, but then I just, I had to see the humanity in it. They're just like looking out for us, seeing us wait outside here in the cold. Like it's something I should have appreciated at the time, but I was younger and I was angry and I just didn't see it that way. And so this film I made was based off that moment of the charity coming outside, and Will was coming outside and he had just been turned down from seeing his loved one in prison, and they had a moment of conflict. And so I just wanted to see what it was like if that anger inside me had confronted that charity, that act of kindness, and what that would look like. And so that was what that film was exploring. And that was the first time I had ever really talked about belonging to an inmate family and having someone incarcerated. And then it just got such a good reaction from my peers and from the school in general that I just like kept going with it. And then that's like, yeah, and
because it's fucking real.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's like a fucking beautiful exercise. Like, it's something
It is.
real, and you just attach a little bit of like cinematic flair to it. You
Totally.
know, like
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you
yeah.
like that's just real. That's why people are like, damn, because when a scene pops, like that scene could have been from a larger movie, and it's one of those scenes that like I said chaotic, but it's more just like you're in the moment. You're like, damn, that felt real.
Yeah.
Like that felt like something that could have really happened.
Yeah.
And in that like minute and a half, it said so much. Like it's like, you know, it just said so much.
Yeah, yeah. It said more than I thought it was going to say, because like at the beginning I was just angry and wanted to like show how angry I was, and then after we cut it together, and like you cut most of it, and after we cut it together it was like
Pretty good, huh?
it was good though. It was
Yeah,
like
no. Yeah, it was
it was
good.
like damn. I was like, this is, and it like helped me grow, and it helped me understand, and helped me like step outside of myself and understand that like that anger isn't going to do much for me. Like I can express it in my art, but unless I have a positive intention with it, unless I have like I'm selfless with it, like it's not going to do me any good. And so like, and it's also really important to have someone you trust help you, and someone
Dude.
outside, you
Teamwork.
know? Yeah, like it's like it's so important to have someone you trust to collaborate with when you're making art, when you're making films, you know.
Like I really like, I told you, like I liked our dynamic because I am self-sufficient, like I am independent in just as a person, and in filmmaking I can take that and go, I also work well with others, so let me talk to the director, me as a DP, and go, how much do you want to focus on directing and just give me a few notes beforehand and maybe a few on set if you
Yeah.
have them, but like you do you, like
Yeah,
direct.
yeah. No, it's so great. I love that.
And I'm gonna just shoot, and you know, you shoot and you start learning. Oh, this is what the director likes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do that. But if I have a question or I feel like this is going like the opposite direction of what they usually do, then that's when I come in and ask questions. But when we're on set, like you're totally talking to actors, and I'm totally like cool with that because I'm like, all right, I'm gonna set up. I'm gonna. You know, and then I'm gonna go ask you when you have time.
Yeah.
And
Do
it
you
works.
ever get stressed?
Fuck
Do you ever
no.
get stressed? You
Fuck
never
no.
get
Fuck
stressed
no.
on set. I'm
Dude,
just
nah,
like you're so chill,
no.
and you're so like I'm like stressing out, and I'm just like, am I getting these emotional beats? And I'll be
No.
like,
Because I'll
what am
say
I
something.
doing?
I'm pretty good at just like again, being independent and like do what the fuck you gotta do.
Yeah.
But then reach out to crew, reach out to director, reach out to
Right.
whoever.
Right.
When I feel like I need the help, or I'm unsure about what they think they're doing, so I'm gonna go ask. You
Yeah.
know, but obviously in good way and good manners.
Right,
but,
right.
No, when we worked together, it just flowed. Like
Totally.
there could have been some sort of something going on set where maybe it wasn't perfect, but we still knew we were doing what we had to do.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe someone was late, maybe something was happening with a piece of
Right.
equipment.
Right.
But it's like, but once we get rolling, like it's gonna look good. We're gonna get the coverage we need because we prepared for that, and the performances are gonna be there. You know, as long as she's doing her thing and we have the time for it. Right?
Yeah.
So, no, like I like collaborating with people. Like again, teamwork.
Yeah.
You have to have a good relationship.
Totally.
If not, I don't know. I don't know.
Good luck.
You know from the beginning if it's gonna be a shit show.
Yeah,
like,
no, that's
you
very
know
true.
I know from the very. That's what I'm saying. When someone hands me a script
Oh man.
and I read it, I'm like, man, I'm not even invested.
Yeah.
Like you could be like, I'm gonna pay you day rate. I'm like, oh, cool if I really need the work, but if I read a
Right.
script, it doesn't. Yeah, and in my world right now, if it's like commercial or some other thing that's not even like a narrative film, yeah, I'm like, man, if I'm not invested, this is gonna suck.
Yeah.
It really is. Like,
yeah,
it's,
you can tell. You can tell from the beginning. Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, totally.
But no, Visitation Line, all the other films we did, I'm trying to remember what else we did. We did Rather Die.
Visitation Line.
I felt like there was something else, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
I
don't know.
forget. We should
It's
have
also,
like
well, no,
looked
no.
it up.
It's also because we worked on
before this.
it's also because we worked on other people's films. Like,
Yeah, that's
we weren't,
right.
Like,
Yeah,
it wasn't
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, oh, let's work on these films. It was, you had to help, or you should have been helping other people.
Yeah.
So there was a lot, but
Yeah.
you definitely, like, film students, if you're still in film, or anyone, filmmakers, like, you gotta work with people you like, and on stories you like,
Yeah.
or you're not gonna like filmmaking.
Yeah. People you like working with, people you trust. And that's not necessarily always like your friends. Like we just happen to be friends.
Yeah.
But like a lot of the time, like, I don't know, like sometimes you can't work with your friends. But you
That's
like
true.
you fill that out. You fill that out on set. You fill it out in pre-production and if
the relationships, they
Totally.
really fucking
They
are. Like,
are.
if
They
I
are.
can't like walk up to you and just have like a convo, or if we can't go hang out and like laugh and do whatever, shoot the shit.
Yeah.
Like, then what makes you think you're gonna like have good chemistry on set?
Right.
Like-
And it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Like filmmaking's supposed to be fun. It's like that's what I love most about filmmaking is it feels like I'm just like hanging out with like just a bunch of my friends just making something. And like that the times where it gets stressful and the times where it's like it feels like work, if you have that reminder like, hey, like love, like I'm here for you, like trust me, that like to remind yourself that hey, we're making a movie, this is supposed to be fun. Like that's what keeps me motivated on set and everything. But sometimes you don't have that, and that's the work suffers for it,
and it's super important for the work you do, especially because it's different if you weren't making these films with these themes and these stories about like shit that really matters to you. So again, it could have been someone who was just making, this is just a comedy film, but it's not really, at the end of the day, it's not saying more than it's going to stay in its box of that film. But you're trying to become more of a voice for other things. You're trying to go outside, like you want this to influence and people to react. So it's extra important on your sets. I know that for a fact, because if you don't have that chemistry, it's like, look, this is connected to a person. Like this story is fucking real. These are about, I mean, you tell me that, I don't gotta tell your story, but this is how close I fucking know it. Like this is your fucking family. This is shit you had to deal with.
Totally.
Being, inmate family, like having someone incarcerated, and goddamn, you do a good job doing that shit. Like,
I'm trying, man, and I'm trying to get better at it. Like I really am. I'm trying to. Like when we did Nickel, it was a hybrid because we cast my mom and cast myself in our roles, and it was just kind of recreating a day visiting my brother in prison. And I was still acting at the time, and a lot of weekends I had to choose to go on auditions or to go with my mom to visit my brother in prison. And I had to make a sacrifice. I had to make a choice. Should I go on this audition and maybe not get it and miss seeing my brother for an entire week? And maybe 2 weeks, in case they go into lockdown or something. And so, like, that was what the film was about having to make that choice and being conflicted with that and having to choose myself or my family. And I feel like that's relatable on a universal level, not just with inmate families. And that's what Nickel was about. And like, the more I write about my experience of having my brothers incarcerated, the deeper it goes and the more layers I pull up, and like, that's what it's all about. That's what storytelling is all about, making it universal.
That's awesome. And I think that's great that you have, it's thematic for you. Like everything you're working on still somehow is related to your story. That's cool. That's cool because I'm seeing it from the outside, and you're in New York now, fam. You're elsewhere, so I get to see that shit. Like, all right, she's doing this, cool. I could still in my head, I'm like, I see how that relates, because I see you in it,
Right.
And that's important. You could, sure, you could direct whatever. You could make all kinds of films that are different, but you stay consistent to you. You stay true to yourself.
Yeah, it's really important. Like I'm gonna talk about the pilot for a little bit, if that's okay.
Dude, talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about. Yeah, let's get into it. So let me know, like, what have you been working on? You fucking, what has your past year?
Dude.
Is that a good time frame?
Yeah,
What
totally.
Is your past year?
My past
what has
year.
2017 been like?
Oh man.
Yo,
fuck 2017. I'm like, fuck last year. Fuck this year, man. I can't wait for New Year's. I'm so done with this year. I know all of you are too. Like, I'm just done. But no, this year was good to me. It was good to me. It was good to my family. My brother, he got on parole. And he's been home this past year, so that's just been amazing. And he got work, and so that's been good. And my mom got a new job at the Garland ISD School District. Like, that's been good. My dad's retired. He's chilling. Like, my family's doing well. For, like, the first time in 10 years, they're finally doing well. And I mean, I'm struggling in New York, like, but it's a hustle, you know? I'm still living paycheck to paycheck, but that's a lifestyle that I'm used to by now. And so, like, it doesn't really stress me out as much as it did when I was, like, in my younger 20s living in LA, you know? Now I can, like, handle it. And now I can, like, I know the grind, and I'm used to that kind of, you know, living. And so, and it's just made me stronger. But, like, I got, like, there was this opportunity to direct a pilot that came
Let's hear it.
It was insane. It was so competitive. Like, I had to like market myself as a director, like, over and over and over again, like countless interviews, countless, like, you know, just going in there and pitching my interpretation of this script, of this 30-page script called Half-Life. And the problem with it in the beginning that I had was that it was very much from a certain perspective, and I didn't really see myself in it, and I didn't know if I could direct it unless I saw myself in it. And it was about a woman trying to make it as a screenwriter in the industry, but she was also a mom, and she was also trying to, like, balance that life. And I'm not a mom, but I am trying to make it in the industry. And so I held on to that theme, and that's how I marketed myself, is I can identify with this, I can relate to this, I can tell this story because this is my story too, because I'm also a woman trying to make it in this industry. And so that is how I marketed myself as the director for it, and they chose me. And so I was like, I know, and so I was like, okay, let's get to work. Yeah, I was like, let's get to work. And so I think it just, like, all fell into place because I was coming at it from that angle instead of, like, you know, and also, like, what is the writer trying to say? Like, I learned that so fast. If you're directing something someone else wrote, you better get to know them like they are a second part of your brain, like an attachment of your brain, like know and like there was conflict in the writing room when I would ask her, why are these characters portrayed this way? Because there were a few characters in the first drafts that were portrayed in a stereotypical way, characters of color, and I questioned the writing of it, and like, you have to be brave, and you have to question people no matter how much power they have, because if you stand your ground and you call them out on something that they're not aware of, you're doing them good. Mm-hmm. You're saving them. Dude,
educating the fuck out of people sometimes is the best way to go. But it's also the scariest way to go.
It's scary, and I was like, I might lose this opportunity, but I can't, at the end of the day, I can't direct something that I'm unsure about, and I can't direct something, and this goes back to LA, like everything goes back to, like, when I first started, like, I can't direct something that portrays a certain community a certain way that is false, because I was there, and I was portrayed falsely countless times.
And you're only adding to it.
Exactly.
And that's scary too.
And I can't, like, I promised myself that I wasn't going to do that anymore. And so I put my foot down. And, you know, the writer and I love you, Patty, we butt heads a lot in the writer's room. But in doing that, that's collaboration. Like, sometimes you're yelling at each other. Sometimes you're ripping each other's heads off. But that's collaboration. And at the end of the day, we made this film that is about a woman trying to make it in the industry, and it comes from a truthful place from two women trying to make it in the industry. And
that's that fire.
yeah,
that shit.
yeah. And like she challenged me and I challenged her, and like that was what it was all about. And like we shot it over 5 days. It was insane. It was like, I was all over New York. I saw more of New York than I've ever seen before in my life. Like screw the tours. Like screw any kind of like, go, we'll show you all the highlights of New York. No, like direct a pilot in New York. That's how you see New York. It was insane. But it was like, I grew so much from it as a filmmaker and like as a writer and as a director, and like I'm so thankful for that opportunity, and it's gonna air in January, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, that was like, whew, that was a lot. I was like
awesome
drained after that.
When you told me about that, I was like, what? I wasn't like, what? Dude, I was like, fuck yeah. Like, I was like excited for you, dude.
That's dope.
Anyone I ever fucking meet, I root for them so hard. Yo, I want to know you. Like, and like in 10 years be like, yeah, I still fucking know them.
Yeah.
I just don't pick up the phone anymore. but I try to,
keep in touch.
Try to keep in touch. But no, that's sick. Like, that's incredible, honestly.
Yeah, I do have to say, it opened my eyes up to television, which is so different from film. In television,
it's like this.
Yeah. Oh my God. It is. And you're answering to the bigwigs. Like filmmaking, it's like I'm completely in control of it because I wrote and I directed it, and you're my friend and you're shooting it, and I trust you to do your thing and you trust me to do my thing, and it's like it's easy peasy. It's like collaborative. But with television, I felt like I had to please people. Mm-hmm. Like I had executive producers, I had a writer, I had the New York mayor's office like banking on us, mm-hmm. investing in us, and I had to make sure I came through and I pleased them. And so there's that conflict as like,
who's telling this story?
Yeah, like who's
directing this
Exactly. And so there was a lot of times on set where I was like, the producers want it this way, but I don't understand why, and I don't want to confuse my actors, mm-hmm. and so like I just had to make it work for myself, and I had to just make it work, and like that was real eye-opening too. Was like having to please, clients, like having to please the people that are investing in you, but also staying true to yourself. Like that's something that's really conflicting to me. And I can foresee it like on future projects. If I continue directing television, like that's just always gonna be a hurdle, is like just making that choice. How do I please everyone? How do I please people who are investing in this, investing in me, but also staying true to myself? Like that is something that you just have to find the balance in. Mm-hmm. And for everyone, that's individual for everyone. And so, yeah, that's like a huge part of television. Mm-hmm. And so. No,
that's interesting. That's super insightful too.
Yeah.
Like that's like on a whole nother scale, but mm-hmm. still in the grand scheme of things, it's still small.
Yeah.
It's still small, but just the fact that you were able to like get that opportunity and foresee it all the way through is incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Tight.
Yeah. Thanks,
super
man.
Cool. Yeah. What else have you been up to? I know.
The pilot, and then working on my thesis film, which is kind of like Nickel 2, which is kind of like the sequel to Nickel. Yeah. Basically, you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
We're actually, all right, so I actually helped work on that. I was first AC on that.
Yeah, you were.
But tell us about it. She came back. She came to San Antonio, not like Dallas, Fort Worth, but she came back to Texas.
Yeah, first, my second year film, Chicas Fritas, which was a coming-of-age story about a Chicana.
I think I've seen that one. Have you put that out?
No, I haven't put it out. It's not finished yet.
But keep talking about it.
Okay. But it's about a Chicana. Basically, she gets a crush on her best friend, and her mom is really like feminine, kind of like just worships men. And so she's like conflicted in coming out to her mom, but also conflicted about these feelings she feels about her best friend. And so I wrote that film originally taking place in Texas. Because Texas is like what I know, and like I'm so more familiar with the culture and community here than I am in New York. But I placed it in Corona, Queens, which is where predominantly the Latino community is, and tried to make it work. But it's still a work in progress. And so for my thesis film, I was like, man, fuck it, I'm just gonna go to Texas. Because I was like, I love New York, and maybe I'll write films for New York someday, but I just haven't lived there long enough. I haven't.
That's cool. That's respectable.
Yeah, I haven't seen myself there enough to feel like I can write about it yet. And that's okay. That's okay for you to feel like I can't write about this yet. I still need to live it more. And so I was like, I'm gonna go back to Texas, back to my roots, where I know exactly what I'm writing. I know exactly where I'm coming from. I know exactly where the people are coming from. I know exactly what inmate life, family life is like there. And so that's what we did. We like came to Texas and we shot this film called Rosa's Esperanza. And it's based off my mom. And basically it just follows her bringing her daughter home from being incarcerated for 10 years. And how they're trying to reconnect, or how Rosa's trying to reconnect and get to know her daughter. And their huge Mexican family comes over and like surprises them with a huge celebration and kind of like tears that moment apart. And so Rosa throughout the film is just trying to reconnect with their daughter, but there's all these obstacles, but it's conflicting because the family means well, but it's like, God, how can I say how I really feel as a mother to my daughter who's been incarcerated? And it's like, I think the heart of the film is just, it's just that. It's just that relationship between a mother and a daughter, prison aside, those elements aside. It's just when you have a loved one absent from your life for years that you stay dedicated to, and then they finally come back and so much has changed and there's so much left unsaid, like, where do you begin? How do you begin to get to know that person? And then there's that fear that they're not the person you want them to be. And so, and like that's a little bit of myself in there too, because I mean, I talk about going to LA, I talk about going to New York, and like I'm constantly like running away from Texas, and I'd rather die than go back to Texas. Like I'm constantly trying not to end up here, but I keep coming back here to film, and I keep writing films taking place in Texas. And it's like, that's what I know. And so it's like, there's a fear of who you really are in it. And there's a fear of, getting to know that person and being vulnerable and showing that. And like, I'm still battling with that. I'm still battling that with owning that I'm like, this is me. Like Texas is me, not New York, not LA. Like I'm a Texan, like I'm a Tejana, and embracing that. And so that's like, that's something I'm still working on. And like film is a good medium for me to work on that in, because, it's like we said, providing a platform for other Tejanas to, see themselves on the big screen. Like that's huge. That's so much. And so, like, yeah, that's what Rosa's Esperanza is about, is just, is being truthful to yourself, being truthful to your family. And so, yeah, so we shot it in Texas. We shot it in San Antonio. I love San Antonio.
San Antonio is sick. How cool was it bringing your classmates?
It was awesome. They love Texas. They love San Antonio.
Nah, they like it for about a week.
I know, they were ready to go back to New York. But no, man, like, it was so great. I was so excited for it. Like, everyone on board. And, like, it was so awesome. I have to, like, give a shout out to all of, like, my Texas fam, like, you guys.
Yeah.
Being on that set, having you, like, the people that were on Nickel on this set, like I remember Ashley Ritzer was bawling when I was shooting that scene in Nickel where I was crying on the bed. Like she was like taking notes for camera, and she was like, I can't go in there, I can't right now. And she was like bawling. And like to have her on set for Rosa's Esperanza, and like to have all you guys on set was just like, it was just the cherry on top. It was amazing. And it was like, I felt like my film school experience had gone full circle, and like I can't thank y'all enough, fam, for like helping me make it. It was like,
You are welcome on behalf of the Texas fan. No, that was sick. That was enjoyed. I like enjoyed that a lot. It's you brought pretty much former, other people you went to film school with, and then now you're at another program. And you brought your New York people, and it's like we're all making a film together.
I know.
That was cool.
It was awesome.
That was fun. I had a lot of fun.
I'm so glad. I hope y'all all had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like it was a blast making that.
Yeah.
It was great, and like having my favorite people from New York there, with favorite people from Texas. It was just like, I just felt so much love, and it was like.
Cool.
It was like the best kind of set. Yeah, it really was. It was great.
Sick.
Yeah, so now we're in post-production, we're editing it, we're cutting it up. So we'll see what happens.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun on that set, and it felt I don't say exactly, but it felt so similar to all your other films by the themes. But this one I really enjoyed because I don't know, how much can I say? I don't know. But
Say it.
I don't know, but like I guess just because a lot of, and these are short films obviously, so a lot of your films, it's momentary. These are the best short films, I think. They're in the moment. It's a momentarily like based film, like not like a crazy like a lot of scenes, just like a couple and like one or two spaces.
Yeah.
And this one in particular I really liked because we involved like a family rushing into the house and then the party. And that to me is like as authentic as you can get with like Mexican
I know,
Chicana,
it's so true.
families. It's a party.
Yeah. And like that was a huge thing. Like when my brother came home, everyone wanted to see him. Everyone wanted to come over and see him, and everyone wanted to like, spend time with him and celebrate his return, which was great, and it was awesome, and we loved it. But I could see how my brother and my parents and even me felt like we just need a moment, We just been through 10 years of kind of being in this purgatory. And now we have him back, and now we have him home, and I don't know if he knows who he is. I don't know if we know who we are as a family yet. So like, fam, we love you, but we just need a moment. We need a moment to reconnect with him. And that's what inspired the film, And like, there's like, I don't know, I can't think of a film that is about a mom who brings her child home from prison. And so that's like just really important to me to tell my mother's story, because like secondhand I'm always seeing what she's going through, and my mom is so strong, and she's just always has a smile on her face, and she's a cake maker, like she like bakes all day long and brings people wedding cakes and quinceañera cakes.
She
and
brings the joy.
She brings the joy, exactly, the
food.
sweetness,
Yeah.
yes. And so like I just wonder, like, Mom, like, it's okay to break down. It's okay to like be by yourself and break down and let it out. And she does. And I think that's really hard for her. I think that's really hard for like all like Chicana moms, is because like, I don't know, maybe it's not true in your family. Maybe it is, but like
I don't matter.
with my family, it's such a matriarch. Like the grandma, my mom, is always like more the voice, more the strength, the head of the household. My dad is the head of the household, but like if my mom, if there's something wrong with my mom, like everything stops, And so, and like maybe it's true with both my family, but my mom is just such an outspoken woman, and she's just so strong, and she just wears that and embraces that. And so it was really important for me to see a woman like that be vulnerable, and really important for me to because she is my role model. My mom is my role model, and I just wanted to explore that, and I just wanted to give her moment and her spotlight. And then, that's what Nickel's about, that's what Rosa de Esperanza's about. And I'll never stop writing about my mom and my dad and my family, because like, again, that's what I know, and there's like just so much love, and there's so much that can come out of those stories. So yeah.
No, definitely. There's I mean, strong, like, female protagonists. Every single thing like that your films are about, I'm like, yeah, like no one's doing that. Like,
I know.
keep doing it.
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah,
keep
for
fucking
sure.
doing it. Inmate families, no one is portraying it in the way you are.
I know.
There's so much stigma and like because prison, jail, whatever, the whole incarceration system, it immediately is stigmatized. You're like,
Yeah.
oh well, duh, they're locked up because they fucked up. They did some bad shit. They're
Right.
criminals. They deserve to be there.
Right.
But like, you realize they're people, and you
Yeah.
realize everyone. We don't have to know exactly what they did. You just need to understand like they're people, and there could have been any sort of reason for them to be there.
Exactly.
Like you don't know what the fuck they did.
Exactly.
You would assume they did the worst of the worst. Like they murdered somebody.
Right.
That's probably the worst of the worst. They murdered somebody,
Right.
or several people.
Yeah.
But there's there's a ton of things you could get locked up for that aren't even close to that. It just happens to be
And
against
honestly,
the law.
like from what my brothers told me, the majority of men and women who are incarcerated are in there for small things, in there for little things, little mistakes that they made. They just fucked up.
That anyone could have
Situational.
done, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so that's the majority of people who are incarcerated in this country. And like the system is crooked. I really believe that. I believe the system is crooked. And when I filled out that thing for jury duty, I was like, the system is crooked. Don't choose me. I'm going to go on the side of the, and I haven't got chosen yet, so that's probably a good thing. But like, I was just like,
Life hack.
yeah, man. And so like, it's easy. It's easy for people to just hear the word incarcerated, hear the word prison, and just say, okay, that's, bad guy. Like it's easy to label it. It's easy to not invest your time in it and not give it a moment of thought. And so it's like one less thing to worry about in this world, incarceration, And so, but like I've said countless times, 1 out of every 100 Americans will be incarcerated in their lifetime. That is someone you know. You know someone. I guarantee you know someone, or you know someone who has a loved one who is either incarcerated or will be incarcerated. So why is there not a dialogue about it? Why are there no tools in this world to help you cope, to help those people cope, to help me cope with it, to help me move on with my life so that I can be a stronger support system for them when they are done serving their time? And like, isn't that what you want? Isn't that what incarcerating people is all about, is so that they can be incarcerated, serve their time, come out and be better members of society? Don't you want that? Isn't that what we want? Or do we just want to lock them away forever? I don't think that doesn't solve anything. That just perpetuates that just like keeps it in the system. That just keeps criminals being criminals. And then there's no end to it. And like before you know it, it's like people who have family members in prison, they don't have a chance because their family members are locked up. So that's their future. That's their path, what they're going down. And it's just like an endless cycle. So where does it end? And so like me as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, that's my motivation. It's got to end somewhere. And maybe it ends here. Maybe it ends with these films. Maybe there's an inmate family that'll see this film, see themselves in it, and they'll say, yo, like, we're an actual family. We are an actual, like, we're people. Like, just because I have a loved one incarcerated doesn't mean that I don't have a future, doesn't mean my loved one doesn't have a future. And there's strength in that because I now have a community, and this film proves that. And so so I'm like, yeah, man, I'm gonna keep making films about inmate families.
Yeah. No, this is real. This is, like, I've told people before, like for this podcast, I always like reflecting on this podcast because this ain't shit. But if one person, and it's already happened, same shit. If one inmate family, someone contacts you, someone says, yo, I felt that, no one ever tells our stories, no one's ever talking about it. One fucking person. You just need one. If if they get something out of it, fucking job done. Like,
yeah, no,
like
absolutely.
fucking job done. And it, to me, I'm finding that that's the best way for me to give. You right?
Yes.
So I don't know what the future is. I don't know if I'm gonna be big and balling. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to give you fucking money, but I know I can help you tell a story, or I can say some shit that hopefully you can relate to. And if it's that one fucking person, if it's like for me, I have my own people who I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of talking to them. I'm kind of talking all over the place. But if someone hears it and they go, oh shit, like I can find communion in that, or that did something for me, I'm like, fuck yeah, job done. Like I do that anyways.
Yeah.
I was like, I fucking have we'll have these conversations. We know it. We'll have these conversations, and therefore we have them in our own space. But I'm like, fuck it, let's record it. And then now it just became something more than just our talk. Someone could be listening to this, you know?
Totally.
Someone could be driving home. They could be driving to see an inmate family.
Right,
you don't fucking know what
yeah,
you know?
Yeah,
and it's,
for real.
So we just need that one person sometimes, right?
Yeah. And it's hard. Like I've gotten both sides. I've gotten hate mail. I've gotten people messaging me saying, you shouldn't be making films like this because my blah, 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 and so was incarcerated and they deserve to be there, and you shouldn't like show these people in a good light. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to necessarily like make them heroes or shine a good light on them.
Or be like, yeah, they're completely innocent. This is beyond
that.
that.
No, this definitely, yes,
this
exactly.
Is way beyond
this
that.
is beyond good and bad. You know, this is about just human life. This is just about humanity. This is just about interaction between person to person.
Yeah.
This is just about real human experience. And this goes beyond good. This goes beyond bad. This goes beyond the judicial system. This goes beyond incarceration. And so you look past all of those stigmas, you look past all of those stereotypes, and you see that like there's a truth to it. And it's a complicated truth, and it's hard. And like, yeah, maybe that person does deserve to be incarcerated. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying that there are people attached to that person that are experiencing a pain silently that they don't have to experience silently. And maybe that's not like, I'm not giving them a platform to like speak or anything. I'm merely giving them a story to watch so that they can look and so that they can see themselves in it.
Yeah, and know that someone's listening.
Exactly.
Someone else is like experiencing the same shit.
Exactly.
And to add to like you talking about the good and evil shit, like sometimes it's just about people. It's just about human interaction, knowing that every single person is connected. Like I've always thought about it this way: we're all links in a chain, just strengthened by each other. So at some point, there's like something rusts over, something weakens, something breaks, then it's like the whole foundation for humanity is like fucked up, like beyond race, beyond, you know, whatever, classism. It's like these people incarcerated are fucking people, and their families are fucking people too that have to deal with this.
Yeah.
Like someone could die and the family's gonna feel a certain way. They have a funeral, there's spaces for that. But when someone gets incarcerated, like they're still alive, but you can't really fucking, their whole routine changes, your whole life changes. So there's no way for you to
grieve.
And to feel that connection that you've had before, you know, it's just confusion. It's just
Absolutely.
like what the fuck to do. I don't know it to your extent of having like a family member incarcerated for like a long ass time. But I've had people incarcerated for even small amounts of time, and that initial fucking call or that initial news that like someone did something fucked up or someone's in handcuffs right now or in jail is like, but like that's my brother, but like that's my uncle, that's my cousin, that's my dad. Like, what do you mean? Like, like, are you kidding right now? Like, how the fuck are they locked up? They're good people. They wouldn't do that. I know them.
Right.
Coming to terms with that reality, like who the like aside from your immediate family, no one else is gonna be like, oh, it's okay. Like, what did your brother do? Like, what? Like, no, it's not a fucking about that.
Right.
So, all that just to be like, people are important. These stories matter, and the fact that people just dismiss them is just like, just shitty.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like I've had, so again, I haven't had anyone locked up for like a long time, but but I've had family members get held in like a detention center or something for being undocumented.
Yeah.
And that to me is like a whole lot of like, holy shit, like what the fuck do we do? You know? And not even just like, again, that moment sucks, but the next day and then the next day and then, I'm not going to see them for like a long ass time, or they gave me a schedule. You can only see them at this time. And you feel powerless. Like, why the fuck can't I just go see them now?
Right.
Or whatever.
Right.
So that to me, like, I can relate to it in that way. Like, damn.
Yeah, totally.
Powerless.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're completely stripped of your power. You're completely stripped of that person in your life. And I don't know, like, I mean, I'm so close. I'm so close with my family. I'm so close with my brother. And so, so when he got locked up, it really did turn my world upside down. And I lost so many years without having that presence in my life, without having a big brother to take me to the movies, without having him to see me in plays. And like, it's a loss. It really is. And so, like, it's just, I had no way of expressing my pain, and I had no way of talking about it. And so film was the only platform I had. And so, like, I'm gonna tell my story. I'm gonna, like, share my pain. And if people come against me and if people think it's wrong, then, you know, there's truth in that too. There's truth in their pain too, and I'm not discounting that. Like, if you're angry at someone who is incarcerated and there's a right to your angry. It's okay to be angry, and it's okay to be angry with me. Like, as someone who's going to go on and write films about these very complicated situations.
You have to have a hard shell.
Yeah, you gotta expect backlash. And I have gotten hate mail, and I have gotten that backlash. And you just have to, it's love, man. You just gotta say, I understand, I hear you, I love you. I'm going to hear your story. Since you heard mine, I'm going to hear yours. And then you move forward with that. And maybe you do something with that. Maybe you incorporate your experience with that later into something. But, and like this, and that's why it's like, write what you know, because there's so many human interactions that you go through every day that are such an amazing story and can tell so much about human life. And like, why not? Why not embrace that? Why not, tell what you know and explore what you know, because you never know, someone's going to be out there experiencing the same thing, going like, nobody experiences this. I'm alone. What the fuck am I doing in this world? I shouldn't be here. I don't deserve to be here. I'm just wasting time. I'm wasting space, because that was me. I've been there. And so you never know. Like, just keep at it. Filmmakers, keep at it. You never know.
Fuck yeah. Cool. So I wanna close with, what advice would you give your younger self at any point? It could be you last year. It could be you realizing, oh shit, something's up with my brother or a family member, or film school or starting film. Like, it could be your whole fucking life. Like, what advice would you give to your younger self? Like I've told myself, like, yo, you can fucking do it. Like, people are gonna hate on some shit. You may be unsure about who you are. You may go to this 4-year university and realize, like, oh shit, everyone here doesn't look like you. Like, how you grew up, your scenario, this is all fucking you. Like, you gotta hold your head up high and just be who you are, be true to yourself, no fake shit, and just, do your best and fucking shine. Like, to me, I was like, man, I was comfortable, but I was also like, fuck, like, I knew I was like Chicana. I knew my stories were different. Yeah. And this is part of me just being like, yo, let me share that and let me get other people to do the same, because it's communion. Totally. It's communion. Totally. So this is all, every single podcast episode, whether it's just me or a guest, this is me reflecting on my life and being vulnerable and being able to, I treat it as if I'm giving my younger self advice. Yeah. But it's also like me talking to similar kids, like a young first gen Chicano, whoever, who like skateboarded or did whatever the fuck I did, and they've already, there's kids that already reached out to me. That's sick. Like I'm like, yo, I did this shit, and I was like, yo, you probably are similar to me. Like watch this shit, and they're probably like, whatever. I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
But then they give it a few minutes, and they're like, you know what, this might, because I'm not forcing nothing down their fucking, in their face. I'm just being
You're just
like,
pointing it out.
Yeah, I'm just like, yo, this might happen, or this is how I felt, and they're like, yeah, I guess I feel that. But when you're younger, it's hard to be conscious about this stuff.
Totally,
Like,
yeah.
But is there anything you would tell your younger self?
Oh man.
It could be like right before a film. It could be in general. We already touched on shit.
I know. Like, I would tell my younger self to just value yourself, value your mind, value your heart, just value yourself, because you have something to give. And the minute you stop valuing yourself, the minute you stop thinking, I have something to give to the world, is the minute you fail. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to like think that every now and then, as long as you go back to it, as long as you keep reminding yourself that you have value and you have something to give. And whether that be through art or like any other like medium of expression, like any kind of employment, like any purpose in life, like as long as you have a value to what you have to give something in this world. You have to have something to offer this world in order to make it in this world. It's like this world does not move on its own. People are moving this world. 2017, you moved this world, and it is like, it's a shit show, but we're moving it, and we're being active. And so the minute you are inactive is the minute it becomes a shit show. And that's exactly what's happening. And I sound like my dad right now, but like that is my message, is value yourself and move with it. Let your value be your motivation. Know and find out what you have to offer, even if it's just loving someone else, even if it's just, being kind, showing kindness to others. That's something, that's so worth something. Don't devalue yourself. Like, know that you have something to offer this world, and do it, and just like don't give up on yourself, because that's just there's just so much in this world right now that it's so easy for young people of color to just put themselves down and feel like they don't have a chance. With the way this country's going, it's easy. That's an easy mindset. What's not easy is to step outside and say, no, I'm gonna fight that. I'm gonna battle that. I'm gonna stand up for what I feel is right, for what I have to offer, and go for it. And that takes a lot of work, but you're not alone. No one's alone in this world. And so just know that, value yourself, and move forward.
You hear that, young Amanda Reyes? Go back in time and play this shit.
I know, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. It was nice talking to you. I wish you the best in your journey in New York, and I hope we will reconnect, obviously, but I hope to work on more stuff with you in the future.
For sure.
And I'll visit you one day, maybe.
Yeah, come to New York. What the hell? Do a podcast in New York.
I might fucking jump on a podcast. You never know with this kind of shit. But this is also. Are you in your last semester?
I'm in my last. I'm gonna graduate in May.
Damn.
Then I'll have my master's, and then I'll be like done. And I'll be like, I don't know. I'm figuring it out. But I have value.
That's cool.
And I have something to offer,
That's
so
cool.
I'll figure it out.
This is new. This is brand new. Things are scary, but
Yeah.
good shit's gonna happen. I promise.
Yeah. You just gotta stay. Gotta stay positive.
Shit, who fucking know? We might be. There might be a future professor / actor / fucking director / fucking like. Sky's the limit. You never know.
Yeah, totally.
But again, thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me and other people like me this platform to tell our stories and to talk with you. This has been like,
hell yeah.
This is what it's all about.
It's just our own conversations, and we just hit record, you know what I'm saying? And then people are like, what, you talk like that? Like, yeah. Like, don't we? I mean, I feel like we do.
Yeah.
But
No.
All right.
Yeah.
That's episode 4 out. Thank you very much for listening. You can follow me at German Torres TX. You probably already know that. Where can people follow you?
On what? What do you mean? Amanda Nicole Reyes. Just Google Amanda Nicole Reyes
Ooh,
film.
Google, she has it like that. You could just Google Amanda Nicole Reyes. Yeah, I was just saying like Twitter, Instagram handle.
Yeah,
I'm
Amanda N Reyes. Usually, that's my handle for everything.
tight. All right.
Check out my shit.
Peace out.
Bye.
Cool.